It is a great pleasure for us in the Bahamas Olympic Committee to announce the team that will be representing the Bahamas in London, England to the 30th Olympic Games. We in the Bahamas, our athletes have worked hard for this one moment in time. And we in the Bahamas Olympic Committee have worked hard to make sure they enjoy this one moment in time in the Olympic Games. And we have worked closely with the British High Commission to make sure, the Bahamas High Commission in London, to make sure that our Bahamians have a place to go to enjoy themselves. We have a house that we call the Bahama House that we have decorated with Bahamian colors. We'll have Bahamian music, Bahamian food, and for the very first time, we will be taking a Bahamian chef with us to ensure that our Bahamian have that good Bahamian food. Imagine you in London, England, in the day having lunch with an Andrews crab and rice and steamed Bahamian grouper and a cold Coca-Cola or Gombe punch and another cold thing that I can't remember the name, another cold one that I can't call the name. Imagine having that in London, and that is what we're going to give to our Bahamian athletes. And we're sure that with this kind of comfort that we give them, we guarantee that they're going to be comfortable there, and we hope that their comfort would make them go higher, faster, and stronger. We know that they're going to represent us well, and we know they're going to represent the Olympic ideals of excellence, respect, and friendship in London. And we look forward for a great performance from our team. Thank you.
Okay. We have now reached the moment in time when the meetings and all the necessary qualifications are done. All of the necessary communications and negotiations are done. The training camp on the Olympic Village now only awaits for the arrival of Team Bahamas. Our chef de mission of the Bahamas 2012 Olympic team, I am grateful for this opportunity to lead this team into the 2012 Olympic Games. Team management that will consist of executive officers, coaches, and medical staff. We will all work in unison to create a memorable atmosphere for both athletes and guests alike to ensure that the Bahamas competes at the highest level, exceeding the expectation of our athletes and our guests. We will create an environment for our athletes, whereas we will only want the athletes to focus on their events and to perform to the best of their abilities. To create an environment, it will take the hard work of every individual who is a part of this support team. So the Bahamian public can rest assured that our athletes will be taken care of and will be able to compete to the highest levels in these 2012 Olympic Games.
Okay, well, read the athletes.
At this time, Team Bahamas will consist of 23 athletes, being Christine Amatel, the women's 4x100 meter relay, Shaniqua Ferguson, women's 100 meters, women's 200 meters, women's 4x100 meters, Debbie Ferguson, women 100, women 200 meters, women 4x100 meter relay, Ivany Kemp, women's 100 meter hurdles, Shawnee Miller, women's 200 meters, women's 400 meters, Vialone Robinson, women's 4x100 meter relay, Anthony Strawn, women's 100 meters, women's 200 meters, women's 4x100 meter relay, Bianca Stewart, women's long jump, Chandra Stirrup, women's 4x100 meter relay, Derek Atkins, men's 100 meters, Trevor Barry, men's high jump, Chris Brown, men's 400 meters, men's 4x400 meter relay, Warren Frazier, men's 100 meters, Raymond Higgs, men's long jump, Michael Matthews, men's 200 meters, men's 400 meters, men's 4x400 meter relay, Ramon Miller, men's 200 meters, men's 400 meters, men's 4x400 meter relay, Wesley Nemore, men's 4x400 meter relay, Demetrius Pinder, men's 200 meters, men 400 meters, men's 4 by 400 meters relay. Levon Sands, men's triple jump. Shamar Sands, men's 110 hurdles. Donald Thomas, men's high jump. Andre Williams, men's 4 by 400 meter relay. Also, we have in swimming, Ariana Vanderpool Wallace, women 50 meter freestyle, women's 100 meter freestyle. Here we have it, ladies and gentlemen, making up Team Bahamas 2012 Olympic team. We have 10 females, 13 males, which we could all congratulate for making the team for this Olympic Games. And so we are grateful and we commend all of these athletes and which made the final cut for this team. Thank you.
Before you pass it on, can you give us the officials on the team, please?
The name of the coaches, that'll be the coaches for the 2012 Olympic Games. From swimming, you'll have Brett Hawk and Lionel Moore. B3As will be David Charlton, Diane Woodside, Ronald Cartwright, Henry Roll. Chaperones will be Tony Williams Darlin. Our medical team will be Catrice Robinson. You have Jen Davis, Ricky Davis, and Dr. Phil Clausen. These are the persons who will be our coaches and our medical team support. Thanks.
The process was not difficult at all, simply because there were standards that were set by the IAAF in consultation with the IOC. The IAAF standards is very clear. You either make the A standard or the B standard. And I'm pleased to say that all of our athletes met the A and or the B standard, and as such, the process was very, very simple.
I see a number of the athletes have multiple events. Obviously, scheduling will determine if they compete in, like Anthony or Shawnee, 100, 200 relays. Are they going to compete in each one of those?
No, it is not expected that there'll be any doubling to that extent, but because they've met those standards, they've been listed. So what you really have gotten is the qualifiers and their respective events for which they've qualified, and at which point during the technical meeting, when it's the last opportunity to make those final cuts and final decisions, in consultation with the respective athletes and coaches, personal coaches, the decision will be made as to which event they will compete in.
Just for the record, for Bahamians who don't know the process, I know most of them know that there were athletes who also made the B standards in some events, and there were athletes who made the A standards in that same event. Can you explain the process for them? Yeah,
the A standard, if you have one athlete that makes the A standard, and any additional athlete that wants to compete in that event, they must all meet the A standard. For example, in the 100 meters for men, you have Derek Atkins that made the A standard, and then you have Warren Frazier that made the A standard. And then you have Rodney Green that made the B standard, but he cannot compete because he did not make the A standard. And in the case of the B standard, you're allowed to have one B standard competitor, such as Ivany Kemp in the women's 100 meter hurdle, or Shamar Sands or someone like that. So it is very clear.
How do you look at this team compared to previous Olympic Games?
We find the team to be a very, very well-balanced team. And, we expect that the athletes will be able to perform up to the expectations and their ability. And we're very pleased with the standard of performances that they've given us up to this point. And we look forward to improved performances as they and their coaches will be peaking towards the games, bearing in mind that track and field doesn't start until the 3rd of August.
Looking at it, you went from a few years ago having representation in 4 different disciplines. Now you have minimal representation in one and a very strong representation in another. Is that progress, or do you see that as regressing as a country in terms of you not having those participants in tennis, sailing, etc.?
Well, you're speaking of the overall program? Well, undoubtedly, we have to look at ourselves as respective federation and look at what has taken place that would have caused us not to have qualified in events where we would have qualified in the past. There's always a cycle Obviously, in sports, there's a downtime and there's a peak period, right? And unfortunately, it appears that some of the federations may be having that down cycle. But again, as respective federations head, we must look to ourselves and to our coaches and management and determine where that weakness is and how do we improve upon that with a long-range goal of being able to meet the criterion for regional and world competition.
Well, how do you do that?
Each program, they have to look at their respective programs and the succession process, the building phase, the base of the program, because it's not going to happen overnight. It's not an event, it's a process.
Such a young team. What's the average age of the team?
Oh, I don't know. If you took out the high and the low, if you take out the high and the low,
76,
I would hazard a guess.
Just give it back to Roy so you can read the coaches answer that. Right?
Okay, I mean, when you look at it, it's there, and I wouldn't want to hazard a guess, but I would think that probably around 25, 25, I would give us a 25, 28, I would give us a number, roughly.
So what is the expectation, knowing that most of the athletes who are on the team now don't have that like big experience?
Well, the expectation is obviously always for them to go out and do their best. The fact that they have qualified, and we must not underestimate the performance level of these young people, right? That they have met, in most instances, the A standard. And when you always look at a country like the Bahamas, as small as it is, and to be able to produce these athletes, we must not forget that the credit goes to the coaches and the athletes themselves for the dedication, discipline that they've put in to be able to meet the qualifying standard. And so they have met it, which meant that they are there, and now what we expect of them is to be able to improve on that, and in improving on their best performances, anything happens after that.
The men's 4x4, they're at the point where, you know, they would perhaps want to make up for what happened at the World Championships, at a point also where they could perhaps upset the United States. Those the two alternates, Andre, I think, and Wesley. How did you come up with those two guys?
Well, if you look at the results of the 400 finals at the Nationals, you would see that they finished fourth, and well, Andre was fourth and Wesley was fifth. And while that is not always the determining factor, usually you look on the basis of that because you have others. For example, you have Michael Matthew, who is an excellent 400-meter runner. He was not a part of that, but they all will form a part of the relay pool. That at the end of the day, the coaches will make the final decision who is best suited, along with what their schedule would have impacted their individual performances, to the extent to which they're able to make a contribution to the relay running.
Some may have thought that this took a very long time for us to get to this point to the team being made. Would you agree with that?
No.
I mean, because in past, the team has been named a little bit ahead of time than this close.
Well, if you appreciate that we just had our trials and nationals the end of June, and it's as I said, it's a process. And I think what is unfortunate is there's a lot of logistics to be worked out, and I think maybe it has to do with the eagerness of the press wanting to have it during their time as opposed to the management of the BOC and the other logistics that needed to be worked out.
Do you think this is a rigorous schedule for persons like Anthony Canshawn, who will be heading over to World Juniors and then back into the Olympic Games?
Well, to deny it would be remiss of me, but it is a rigorous schedule. But then it comes to the point where coaching really takes over. You can determine that an athlete is going to be tired, or if the athlete is tired, you now have to adjust your schedule to determine, you know, what benefits that athlete. And this is why we're saying, and with permission of the chef de mission, the training camp will take place, and we're expecting all athletes to be at training camp on the 16th of July, and so they can now start to wind down and regroup. 16th of July, outside of London, the training camp will take place, and the athletes will be given more specific information in that regard very shortly.
I know Bahamians always look at the relay teams. What will you tell the Bahamas now that we have such a young team, and then we have an experienced 4x4 team, but people are calling for a change, probably on the anchor leg?
Well, you know, at the end of the day, the coaches will look at the personnel and the strength of the personnel, the available personnel. And I can tell you this much, though, there will be some experiments. When I say experiments, we have already been discussing, and you've got the coaches present, we've already been discussing strategy. It's not a question of what people think. We're going to look at and learn our lessons. We're going to look at some changes in terms of the strategy and the way we approach the 4x4, and I think Bahamians and everybody else would be excited about what we have in mind.
One question on the nationals. You have some athletes that didn't compete because of medical reasons. How are they looking at this point and going into the games?
Their rehabilitation is being monitored very closely by the BOC as well as the team doctor, Dr. Davis, and I again don't want to preempt the chef de mission, but the doctor will be in touch with them, and this is why we're asking everyone to be at camp on the 16th of July so that they can be closely and properly monitored, and as equally important that the rehabilitation can take place under the supervision of Team Bahamas doctors and allied medical personnel.
As president of the DPAs, I mean, how do you feel knowing that there has been so many complaints about these athletes always missing nationals, always sending in medical reports? Do you think that's something you want to curb?
Well, first of all, I beg to differ with you that they're always missing nationals. I think they have always attended nationals. Unfortunately, the hazard of our trade is injury, and we have to accept that if an athlete said he's injured and he is given a medical slip by a medical doctor, we must accept the integrity of the medical doctor and the athlete and the coach, and we have to accept that they say they're injured, and that's why, you know, we work along very closely with the medical doctors. Dr. Davis, who was one of the attendant physicians in several of the athletes, he will also be able to make his prognosis and the progress of these athletes, and this is why it is mandatory that they report to training camp to be evaluated and also to continue their rehabilitation.
Will that report be released to the public?
A report?
Public?
Someone's personal medical report? The injury, no, I mean an injury report, but not of someone's personal. I mean, at the end of the day, the athletes are public figures, and so an injury, unless it's of a very strong personal nature, there's no hidden agenda. We know that some athletes were injured. Injury really means to the fact that a pulled muscle or inflammation or something along those lines, that is nothing that needs to be hidden. It's just a prognosis of where the injury is and the ability to be able to compete at the level of the Olympic Games.
How do we deal with this going forward? When you look at what the other countries doing, Jamaica, U.S., once you show up to run at the trials, you're not fit, you can't run, you're just not selected. How do we deal with that now moving forward?
Okay, but the unfortunate thing for us is that we don't have the depth. I mean, we can ask ourselves, how do we deal with it? And we can say here, okay, if you don't come to the starting line on the day of competition, you're out. Like cut and dry, like the United States and some others, we don't have that luxury. But I can tell you that my colleagues and the BOC and us, we are agonizing over how to deal with it. Because as I said, once you start questioning an athlete's injury that is accompanied by a medical certificate, you're now questioning the integrity of the medical professional, first of all, and the athletes and coaches, and we don't want to come to that. And so it's a dilemma that we find ourselves in, that I'm not in a position to tell you how we're going to deal with that now, because it's a work in progress how we deal with it. But I can tell you we do not have the luxury. And this is why you would hear us often say pending fitness. Because at the end of the day, we have accepted the athlete and the doctor's certificate to say that the athlete is not healthy at this time.
So it comes to the window as they're not healthy for nationals, but they could possibly be ready for show.
Well, that's the nature of it. That's the nature of injury. That's the nature of injury. I mean, you can get a cramp walking down the steps, and then 2 days later you don't feel it anymore. It's the nature, it's the hazard of the trade.
What constituency you say you're running for again?
The Bahamas. The Bahamas.
Just happened with Bosch.
I want to ask for a cyclist and being a part of that federation. Is it disappointing that you're at a point now where cyclists aren't making the, I don't want to say the cut, but aren't at the level yet to be able to qualify for the Olympics?
I wouldn't say disappointed, because we all know that for a number of years now we were in our training programs, but we had from our feeder system, and you'll find that those athletes who we are actually grooming for this kind of this level of competition, they're only in the juniors right now, and so you will find that even to the level where they're at, they still have about 1 or 2 more years to go, but probably, hopefully, for the next Olympics, they will be at these levels.
So what are you putting in place to make sure that that happens, that you do have cyclists that are able to qualify for the Olympics? Because if I understand it correctly, it's
arduous process as well?
Yes.
To qualify, it's not just making the mark, it's going through several.
It's going through several different rounds, and each game qualifies you for the next level. And so in cycling is somewhat just a bit different, but there's no question that we have young up-and-coming cyclists who will be one day at the Olympic Games.
So would it be fair to say that Rio is a distinct possibility for cycling?
Yes, it's a possibility for cycling the next time around, 2016, yes, sir.
Thank you much.
One of the things I just wanted to make note of that we in the Olympic Association is very, very proud of is the fact that we have the Olympic Solidarity Olympic Scholarship program that was designed specifically to aid athletes in achieving Olympic standard. And I'm pleased to say that all of the athletes from track and field that were on the Olympic Solidarity has made the Olympic team. And also, in conjunction with my colleagues, we established a Special Olympic Development Fund, where 4 athletes were nominated for that fund, and they received subvention of that fund. And 3 of the 4 athletes have also made the Olympic team. And so I think that's a testament to the development of my colleagues in the Olympic Committee and how we see the development of sports going in the country. And hopefully this will set the tone for us to be able to receive more funds from the IOC to be able to expand our program and to offer more assistance to more athletes.
Dave, as a coach of this team, what are your expectations and how do you look at our team compared to what you're seeing, say, at the U.S. trials, the Jamaican trials, you know, what they're producing? How do you look at our team?
Well, first of all, it's an honor to be a part of this 2012 Olympic team. I'm very excited about the opportunity to work with these athletes and also represent the Bahamas as a coach. Now, I heard it during the U.S. trials. They indicated that it's going to be the United States versus Jamaica. Now, I take exception to that because certainly all of our athletes are going to go out there and they're going to give it their all. And given the fact that we have been able to meet the A standards, and a number of our athletes are also represented in the top 10 in the world. Once you're in the top 10 in the world, anything can happen as you advance through to the finals. So we're going to be very competitive in all events, and I'm confident of that. I'm excited also about the opportunity to work with the men's 4x4 team. As you all know, we've had great success in the past. A mishap last year, but as a coach of this team, I'm confident that we're not going to let that happen. We will advance to the finals, and we're going to give the world a run for their money. And I'm confident we're going to come out on top.
You had an opportunity to travel to the IWF World Championship game last year. How do you look at that experience of coming over to the Olympics, and what are your expectations for it, particularly as you look at the women on this team now?
Well, the women, of course, over the years have been very strong in what they've been doing as far as track and field. I'm very honored to be a part of this team as a woman and as a women's head coach. And we plan to go down there and do our best. I'm sure that they will feel very comfortable knowing that a woman will be assisting them in all areas of athletics as well as social, etc., that we can sit down and talk about women things. I think that's a big advantage. So again, we have a very young team with some experience mixed in, and we are going to go down there and do our very best and represent our country and bring home some hardware, of course.
Talk about being the coach for Ivy Camp. How are you feeling knowing that one of your athletes will be part of this Olympic team?
Well, there's several athletes that have come through our program that are on the Olympic team, 5 to be exact. I'm very proud of them to know that they are part of the highest level sporting events in the world. So I'm exceptionally proud of Shamar, of Ivanique as hurdlers, a very technical event, and I'm sure that they'll do extremely well. Both have made the B standard, but I've been working with Ivanique for the past 2 weeks on the track. She's now at the youth, the under 23 games in Mexico right now. Shamar will be coming home soon, and we'll be working together. So I'm very, very proud of, especially those two who are hurdlers, as well as Anthony Strawn, Vialane, Robinson, who are also part of the team. So I'm very, very proud of them.
Today being National Pride Day, and we be celebrating women's suffrage in Parliament Square. And now the announcement that you're the first woman head coach ever in the 60th anniversary of the Bahamas Olympic Committee. How does that make you feel? Because I'm getting goosebumps knowing that a milestone has been set unintentionally. 60 years at our first women head coach.
Ours is intentional, not unintentional.
I'm extremely proud of the women's movement in our country and in athletics. As you can see, again, as mentioned, the first head coach, women's head coach and coach of an Olympic team. And as you can see from the listing there, we also have Miss Darling, who will be assisting as well in the chaperoning area. Very wonderful athlete. So it makes me very proud to know that women can compete and work at the same level as men. So I'm very, very, very proud of that.
I want y'all to emphasize on the chef. Curzon International has given us permission to take one of their chefs, one of their top Bahamian chefs. And that's the first for the Bahamas team, too. Taking our own chef, we have our own food, cook for our own athletes and our own officials at our Bahamian house.
And just that what the president said, it just shows you that the BOC is moving with the times. I mean, it is not unusual for countries to do this. I mean, you will see and hear that. No, I'm just saying that the president has indicated that Curzon International, Atlantis, has offered up their chef that is going to be traveling with the team to be at Bahama House to be able to cook that good Bahamian breakfast or lunch or dinner, as the case may be. And at the end of the day, this is not unusual for countries to do that, so the athletes and family and friends can have a familiar diet. And so we're looking at, continuing to be on the cutting edge. So just wanted to emphasize that point.
When you talk about taking your own Bahamian chef, Bahamian house, is this still in the Games Village?
No, it's not in the Games Village.
Right outside to the embassy, and that's not far from the game village.
But if they're feeling hungry for some Bahamian food, they just, even though the LOCs around the world, the games of this magnitude, there's a dish for everybody. I mean, they'll have like the Caribbean dish, and they'll have the Indian dish, the Italian dish, but nobody cooks the Bahamian food like the Bahamians. And so at the end of the day, if you guys and everybody else feels like having some real Bahamian food, you just go down to the house and have yourself a feast.
We put this house together because it's going to be a gathering house where you can go there and meet everybody who's over there. We invite them to come there through the day so they can have your Bahamian conversation. Imagine in London and having boiled fish for breakfast. What a great thing. We're going to have Bahamian music there. We try and get all the newspaper there on time for us. So when you come, you can be up to date on what's happening back home. We're gonna be calling you.
Me?
And put you on the speaker. We want you to bring us up to date on what's happening home.
No.
There been any other? No other?
Let me try on them shades first.
If there be none, then
I can
we
bring one
close
for you.
out.
We thank you this time for your time until next time.